Hey everyone, it's Carter King. If you're an educator, a leader, or just a parent who wants to teach kids about space, check out my newest book, Carter's Journey Through Space. It's available now on Amazon, Target, and bookstores everywhere. Come explore the universe with me.
Welcome to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King, and the goal of this podcast is simple: to help you create environments where people thrive. Through real conversations, practical strategies, and powerful stories, we equip leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself to build cultures rooted in purpose, performance, and authenticity. Because culture isn't something you talk about, it's something you live. This is the Contagious Culture Podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Contagious Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle King. And the goal of this podcast is simple: to help you create ecosystems and environments where people thrive. Look, today's guest is somebody that really just inspired me a few minutes ago. I asked her a question. I was like, if you could describe what you do and your mission in one sentence. She said, empowering those who care with the methodology, strategies, and resources that they need to succeed. Look, Denise Brown is doing some phenomenal work. She is what leadership in action and starting with heart truly means in real time. She is doing the work, she's leading the work, and she's transforming the people that she serves in not just an intentional way, but with love. Denise, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Wow. Thank you.
Of course.
I'm going to listen to that every morning. Thank you for that.
Of course. Anytime. Look, I'm excited for this conversation. You are doing some phenomenal work. I have 1,000 questions, so hopefully you've booked 7 hours of time.
I'm yours.
But before we get into all of those questions, how would you define who you are and the mission that you are committed to building?
Yeah, so I am someone who has been fascinated by the personal caregiving experience for decades. And that fascination has turned into a business of passion to educate, support, and create community for those who are in a caregiving situation. And it could be family members. It also could be professionals like direct care workers.
There's always a story behind the work that we do. And one of the questions that I always ask on the Contagious Culture Podcast is, what is that slingshot moment? What was that moment that pulled you back? That for me, it humbled me. It brought me down to my knees. It really had tears in my eyes. But for many, it's just that awakening. What was that awakening in your life that led you to doing what you do today?
Okay, so I consider that to be my flashlight moment. It was like a flashlight from the heavens appeared. I like that. And really opened up the path for me. And it was 36 years ago. I was working as a writer for trade magazines, which were big business back then. And no one was reading what I was writing. So I thought there's got to be something else I can do. Yeah. So I was going to do some freelance writing, and I thought I need to find a part-time job. So I was literally laying on the floor in my apartment. I had the newspaper spread out. That was when we looked in the newspaper for jobs. Yeah. And there was a job for a congregate meal site manager, which means it was a place where seniors in a little town along the Delaware River in New Jersey would go to have a hot meal. And it was also the site where we delivered Meals on Wheels. And I thought that was my flashlight moment. It was like the light just highlighted this ad. Never thought about working with older adults. Just had never been in my awareness. I got the job, and then that really started my career around supporting those who might care for someone in the family.
Now, there's a new term that I heard maybe a year ago. Rather than elderly, it's called aging forward. I absolutely love it, to be honest. And it's this whole aging forward movement and aging forward campaign. And working as a volunteer at Shepherd Center right here in Charlotte, North Carolina, I recognize the lack thereof caregivers, the lack thereof people that want to really give their time, their talent, and their treasure in that space. Can you talk about your experience on why that may be and what we can do to be able to provide people that are aging forward more support?
Absolutely. And really, it's two-pronged. It's support for that older adult or our family member with a diagnosis, and then it's support for that primary family member who steps up to help. And when I think about shoring up that support for that individual who has a diagnosis, it's because we have not created a career for directed care professionals. Now, that's the common term that we use. Even that term, you think, gosh, I really don't want to be a direct care professional.
Yep.
We have a career that is...
Hey, it's Kyle. Sorry to interrupt your programming, but I got a quick culture check for you. How's your team's energy right now? I mean, literally, right now. Are people feeling inspired? Or are they just showing up? See, here's the truth. Culture doesn't change because we talk about it. It changes because we live it actively every single day. And that's what I help organizations do. Build contagious cultures that people actually want to be a part of. Through keynote talks, interactive trainings, and hands-on consulting, I help leaders transform the way their teams connect, perform, and grow. So if your culture needs a little bit of spark, let's light it up together. Visit theculturelab.org, again, theculturelab.org, or connect with me directly on LinkedIn at Kyle S. King to learn more about how we can work together. Because remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching. Now let's get back.
One job, and that is you become a home health aide or a certified nursing assistant, and that's it. And there's no career up. And so what I've been trying to build is what that career ladder looks like. So to take someone who has been supporting individuals with a disability or disease process, and then taking that knowledge and adding in coaching skills. So they coach other colleagues, so other direct care professionals, and then they coach family members. And then that becomes their career path.
That's good.
The other thing that happens in that direct care workforce, oftentimes the body ages out of that job.
What do you mean?
You're doing a lot of hands-on, intense work. So your back just can't do it anymore.
Exactly.
Or your body is just too tired from doing it. And what's just tragic about that is when your body ages out of that work, where's the pivot to the next work? And that's what we need to create. Not only is it a career path for those who really feel like, I love this work, I want to do more, I want to do it in a different way. That's coaching. But when I've aged out, my body has aged out, I have another way to actually support and care because it's in my heart to support and care.
You know, that's interesting because I think it's the same thing in education. And when I taught, the next step is an assistant principal. The next step is a principal. The next step is potentially on the district. And then there's an expiration date. There's a ceiling to people within the educational realm. But I believe that the ceiling exists even before you become an AP because there's a lot of teachers that don't want to be administrators. They just want to continue to grow their craft as teachers. But there's no pay difference. The only pay difference is when you take a completely different role. And when you take that completely different role, it steps you away from the actual work that you love to do. So it's a pretty neat concept and idea that, you know, caregivers or people that are doing this work, when their body ages out and when they need to transition, there has to be parallels and there has to be transitions for them to be able to move into. So what are our solutions, Denise? Like, what could we do as social impact leaders, just in general, as listeners, to be able to create pathways for these people to move forward?
That's such a big question. And I don't have the entire answer, but I've been working on this for a few years. And I really do believe it's really looking at the talent and then creating path for the talent. And what's interesting is we don't necessarily look for talent in that workforce, which is just really heartbreaking because there is a talent to someone showing up at a stranger's home and then providing really personal care.
Of course.
Not everybody can do that. That takes a certain level of soft skills and understanding and wisdom about human behavior to be able to do that. And what's interesting is you have to do it tailored to each client. So each household that you enter has different dynamics. Plus, you have a client or a caree, we use the term caree for the individual receiving care, who has a different diagnosis and who has a different path in their diagnosis. So you're always adjusting to that environment. That's talent. I mean, so what if we were to really talk about the work, not just about the hands-on care, but this amazing encyclopedia of soft skills that we then elevate into, that's a role we want to really honor and celebrate, and then move up into other ways that we can use those skills to support family caregivers within the systems. So when you're caring for a family member, you're navigating 19 different systems. It's a nightmare, and each system is different. But if there was a navigator or guide who understood the systems and could help you along that way, that would be amazing. And within our communities, what if within our communities we had this workforce that the communities tapped into? We don't have infrastructure in our communities to support family caregivers. We just don't. But what if it became a priority within our local communities, our townships, our counties, our cities, to actually have this workforce to support residents during their caregiving experience? And one of the first ways to support them is help them create a family emergency plan. So you're in Charlotte. You had, when was it that you had maybe an ice storm this winter?
That was about, I want to say maybe a month and a half ago, because then 2 or 3 weeks after that, we had a big snowstorm and it was like 7 or 8 inches of snow.
Okay. And then what happened to the community because of that weather, those two weather events?
I mean, they shut the whole city down. They shut the city down, I think 2 or 3 days before the actual ice storm and snowstorm hit. And, you know, even my son that's in school, he missed probably 3 or 4 days of school.
Okay. We have no way to help families with any kind of plan for those kinds of weather emergencies. And think about caring for someone who relies on a home health aide to come into the home, or relies on supplies or equipment. All of that is disrupted during a weather emergency.
Wow.
But we don't
thought about that.
right. But we don't think about supporting that family with emergency planning. And what if our communities started doing that? So we get little alerts when there's something happening with a storm that's coming. And what if there was some kind of community event once a year where everybody in the community got together, went through a 1-hour workshop about creating their own family emergency plan. And it's led by someone who was a direct care worker who could offer insights. And so then that direct care worker is an employee of the community.
No, that's a great idea. And I think, you know, I see it's so many layers in social impact. And as somebody that does the work, I think a lot of times we get caught up in our own silos. Like, I'm thinking about how I can connect and empower students and provide access, or even help nonprofits or leaders do this work more intentionally. But you just exposed me and opened my mind up to, what about individuals that rely on certain opportunities or certain people? And at a weather event, we're not even thinking about those people. And there's a whole population of individuals that maybe can't get access to groceries, that don't have the privilege of just staying at home and hanging out with their family, maybe don't even have access to Wi-Fi, or can't grab their TV remote, or just certain aspects that I overlook arrogantly, and just the privileges that we have, that we just overlook them. So, Denise, and that's why your work is so important. And I'd love for to just give you your flowers and the work that you're doing and how you're leading this space. For someone that's never known you or has never researched you before, and this is your first time meeting you, what is the exact work that you're doing, and how are you transforming lives?
Okay, so In a nutshell, a lot of what I do is take lived experience and transform it with training. So for instance, former family caregivers, someone who has cared for a spouse with dementia, for instance, has a really unique experience through their lived experience. And oftentimes they want to do something with that because it was hard for them in their caregiving experience, and they want to make it easier for someone else. They could take a training program that I've developed to become basically a consultant and coach to help others. So I'll give you an example of someone who has just taken one of my training programs. So he cared for his wife. His wife died in December. So here we are in March. So less than 3 months ago, his wife died. And immediately he was on the phone, researching the internet to see what could he do to make lives better for others in a caregiving situation. So he reached out to me and he took my support group training. So now he's going to lead a support group for others in a caregiving situation.
That's good.
He called me this morning. He said, I loved that. What's my next step? So I gave him a suggestion of another training he can take to provide one-on-one mentoring to support dementia family caregivers. We have these intense experiences in our life. You alluded to that when we started today, that just change us. And they change us in such a way that we think, I can't go through life without helping and supporting others.
100%.
Because I see how profound it is, how meaningful it is to be able to do that. So I guess if you were to think about my work, it's really taking this lived experience from caregiving and turn it into a career or a volunteer opportunity. So you continue to have that impact of profound, meaningful experiences.
What do you see the impact being? You know, I love when people talk about the work that they do and how it creates transformational change within either communities, spaces, businesses, or countries or communities. What do you see the impact being? Like, how do you measure and quantify what that transformation looks like?
It's stress level and quality of life. So for instance, when we support a current family caregiver with coaching, one-on-one support, we lessen their stress. We actually improve their quality of life. Interestingly enough, family caregivers say they are in desperate need of a good listener in their life. So when we ask family caregivers from 1 to 5, 5 being the greatest need, how much do you need a good listener in your life? They all say 5. I've never had anyone rate that other than 5, because it's hard to listen to someone in a painful time, which is why our family members and friends sometimes just can't do it. They just can't do it. So we do it, and that lessens their stress and improves their quality of life.
I love that.
Yeah. The other thing that we haven't been able to really measure, but does impact family caregivers, when they have support at the right time, it lessens their regrets later. So if I'm less stressed during my day, I have more patience. I have more compassion. I show up in a different way during my caregiving experience.
I do agree with that one.
And then when I'm looking back after my Carrie has died and I'm looking back at the experience, I'm not like, oh my gosh, what was wrong with me? Why wasn't I nicer? I can look back and think, I was nice. And it's very comforting. So in essence, a lot of the work is really around preventing regrets.
What's one of the things that most times people misunderstand, or how are we misrepresenting this industry and the work that you're doing?
Okay, that's a great question. Oftentimes, when we talk about families who are family caregivers, so they're caring for someone in the family, a lot of it is that it's women who are like late 40s, early 50s. But that's not the whole story. We have young adult family caregivers. We have students in high school who are in a caregiving situation, caring for a family member. We also have men. It's not necessarily as specific to a gender, I think, as the data would indicate. I think of it more about personality. Who has the personality to be through tough days that sometimes kind of make your stomach lurch a little bit, depending on the type of care you're doing, and have the fortitude to get through the marathon of caregiving.
That's amazing. You know, there's a lot of times that I come on to podcasts or I give speeches or I'm on a panel and there's questions that are asked. I get to deliver those answers, but there's always something when I leave or some hours later, or maybe the days later, where I think about, oh my God, that's something that I wish they would have asked, or that's something that I wish I would have said. And that probably happens to all of us, especially when we speak. What is the question, Denise, that you often don't get asked, or you often don't get asked, but you would love to be able to just share with people listening?
Okay, the one that comes to mind today, which probably wouldn't be the question that came to mind tomorrow, is what stresses us out during our caregiving experience? And I suppose it's top of mind today because I did a podcast a couple weeks ago, and it was a daughter who's caring for her mom who has dementia. And she said, the problem isn't my mom with dementia. It's everything else.
That's good.
So it is insurance coverage. It is trying to organize and schedule help. It is reaching out to resources. And also it's setting expectations with other family members around what's possible for her mom.
That's good.
So they might not have adjusted to where she is in a disease process. And so she is educating them about what's appropriate and when it's appropriate. So all of that feels like the drain of the experience and can become really stressful. Now, sometimes it is our caree and the disease process that stresses us out, but it's all the other stuff that adds layers that complicate the experience so much. When we're caring for someone, we manage 19 different systems, 19, multiple systems at the same time, depending on what the experience or situation is. Yep. That is nuanced, sophisticated work to be able to do that.
Exactly.
And to be able to have the patience for that as well, to be able to call back and call back and call back to get an order from the doctor and be pleasant every time you do that, which is not easy. So then we get tired of doing things like coping and being gracious and trying. So there's so much complicated, complex layers to the experience. It's not just meeting my mom's needs.
That's good.
For instance, it's much more than that. It's really the ecosystem is huge in a caregiving situation.
No, I love that, Denise. And anybody listening right now, this work is necessary. This work is valuable, and you can't overlook the needs of this industry and the needs of caregivers and also the needs of the people that are receiving care. So we have to uplift this community and we have to do more. Denise, you're uplifting this community. You're doing the work. You're leading the work. You're training and educating and equipping people with what they need. Where can people find out more information about you, and how can we support various initiatives that you're leading?
Yeah, so I have an online community. It's called caringourway.com. And we have a couple special initiatives twice a year. One is called our Caregiving Listener Project, where we match family caregivers with a trained volunteer listener in a private Zoom room. So if you ever have any interest in volunteering for an hour virtually, we'd love for you to think about our Caregiving Listener Project. Typically, it happens in October and in March. And then we have other initiatives that happen throughout the year. We talk about giving to the family caregiver on Giving Thursday, which is a really big initiative. So it's that financial support for family caregivers that oftentimes gets overlooked.
Of course.
And then we have different events throughout the year as well. We'd love for you to join us. We'd love for you to join us.
Denise, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you showing up with your heart, your wisdom, your ability to empathize and be compassionate for various people, not just receiving care, but various people giving care to other people as well. This work is so necessary. And one of the questions that we also ask for our listeners listening in to you is, what type of culture are you spreading? Like Denise is spreading a culture of love. Denise is spreading a culture of transparency, of authenticity, of compassion, of inclusion, and equipping and empowering people to have what they need to be able to create spaces just that are contagious. But what type of culture are you creating? Because the energy you bring is the culture you create. And I want you to go make yours worth catching. My name is Kyle King. I'm the host of the Contagious Culture Podcast. featuring today Denise Brown, and we will see you all next. Thanks for tuning in to the Contagious Culture Podcast. If this episode challenged or inspired you, hey, take a second to share it with someone who's building culture in their world. Make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more leaders, educators, and change makers just like yourself join the movement. You can connect with me on LinkedIn or YouTube at Kyle S. King for more tips, tools, and methodologies to be able to help you create this ecosystem of absolute excellence. Until next time, lead boldly, live intentionally, and remember, your culture is contagious. Make it worth catching.